The best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. No one can stop me. I'm the best ever.
Maybach music.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Let's get ready to
Small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Welcome to the Walden podcast. My name is Marcus Keogh. Some of you may know me as Totally Upland. Today I have fellow podcaster Tyler Webster of the Birds, Booze, and Buds podcast. Not to be confused, Buds as friends, not we.
Indeed.
Our mutual friend Timmy Brown had to put me on game there. I wasn't always sure. I mean, it follows booze, so I'm like, well,
right. Yeah, I always, I never even thought about that when I started it. I just always, it's like, hey, I'm gonna go hang out with my buddies, gonna go hang out with my buds, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I started getting a bunch of like pot shops following me on Instagram, and I was like, oh, well, whatever, doesn't matter to me one bit. I'm fine with it. But yeah, it makes me laugh. It's like, it just never even occurred to me.
Originally, I was like, is it friends? It's got to be friends. So I went and listened to some, and I'm like, well, maybe it's, I don't know, I mean, podcasting and smoking weed. Joe Rogan does it. Who knows what to tell? I don't know what to tell you.
That's right. I mean, I have nothing against it. Just never been something. I would much rather have a glass of like scotch. Just does it for me a lot more. It makes me social. Like if I have a gummy or something like that, I just want to like melt into the couch and not be social. And so it doesn't make me very happy. It's like
exactly.
Whatever.
I have to think about my entire life after I eat this gummy.
Exactly.
I'm just having full blown paranoia is the reality.
Yeah, I don't like being paranoid, man. Who wants to be paranoid?
Relatable. Me too. I had to take it very easy on the weeds.
Yes.
So, a heck of a background right here. This is your cabin.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you got all
the lakes. The lake's right there. So we literally just got off the lake. I got my boat loaded on the trailer at 5:58. Went and cleaned fish back here.
Let's go. What are you catching?
So my camera guy who's up here filming with me, he's never really fished walleyes much. That's kind of my specialty. That's what we do here in North Dakota. We bird hunt and we fish walleyes. That's it. But I did end up catching a pretty good sized drum tonight, freshwater drum.
Let's go.
Which I was just educated on how good eating freshwater drum is on Sunday by my buddy Hank Shaw, who was up here. When we were leaving to go out, he's like, do you ever catch any freshwater drum? I was like, yeah, sometimes. I mean, like, just kind of whatever. And I was like, but we're fishing walleyes. Like, why are you wondering if I catch drum of all things? It's like, I can catch carp too if I really want to. But so sure enough, he like called his shot. I hadn't caught a drum all year. End up catching like a nice 4.5 pound drum or whatever. And I was just going to like reach down with a pair of pliers and just unhook it.
Yeah.
And he's like, Jesus, no. He's grabbing the net and stuff. And he's like, I was like, what, like, what's the secret here? And he's like, I'm not going to say you're an idiot, but you're kind of dumb. And I was like, okay, fine. And we cleaned it and it was excellent. No breading. We just like left the skin on the back of it and put it some Cajun seasoning and some lemon juice on it and put it flesh side down on the barbecue grill. Couple minutes, flip it back over, take it off. Delicious. It was great. So I ended up catching another one of them tonight too. So I'm that guy at the fish cleaning station that's cleaning a drum and everybody's looking at me sideways like, do you know?
I've met drum raving fans before. Like
it's great.
It's good.
It's great. It's great. Yeah. There's nothing unpleasing about it. Like it's white meat. It's very mild flavored. It's not flaky like walleye, so you can grill it just like you would like, saltwater fish, a lot of different types of saltwater fish.
Yeah.
It's excellent. So I threw it in live well tonight. I caught like another 4.5 pounder. I was like, yeah, man, like let's do this.
Go. Yeah, let's go. How about the cameraman? Did he catch anything?
He actually caught more walleyes than I did. We were only out for a couple of hours. He ended up catching 3 walleyes. I caught 2, and then I caught the drums. So we tied overall. But we were only out for a few hours. When we first got out, there was like 4-foot rollers going over like on the lake. But I got a big fiberglass boat, so it's can handle it, but it's just kind of rough. And you can't really fish some of the spots you want to fish. And the wind started dying down a little bit, and we were able to go over and catch a couple more before we had to come over and jump on this. So it's good.
Let's go. So you've got a special day going right now. I mean, the cameraman's there. You hit the fishing. Why not? You're at the cabin where you fish, but
Yep.
you're also filming what? A product video?
Yeah. So one of my sponsors on the podcast is Dogtra. I've been working with Dogtra for 5 years now, probably. They come out with a new GPS collar here last year, the Pathfinder 2.0. They've had the Pathfinder out in the past, the Pathfinder Mini, all that kind of stuff, and they've changed some stuff on the Pathfinder 2 on hunters' recommendations. You know, they got these little connector things like this, and before you just kind of toss it in your bird vest, and it was just kind of like a Bluetooth connector so that the collar could talk to your phone.
Yeah.
All of us hunters are like, you see this little spot right here where it says function? Make that button do something. And they did. They listened. And so now you can set that to do anything you want, whether it's tone or vibrate or or stimulate or whatever. So we've been my camera guy also works with Dogtra. He's a kind of a freelance photographer, videographer. So he's doing some stuff as well. But since I needed to do this anyways, I was like, you just come up here, we'll go fishing. And it's end of July, so we can go out and we can run on some wild birds. It's about the time of the year that I start getting my dogs in shape a little bit and kind of tightening them up from the off season. So I have like an allergy to doing just straight up product videos. I hate it. I hate feeling like I'm like a sleazy snake oil salesman, even though I love the product. Like, I just don't like that feeling. So I talked to Lorraine, the marketing director at Dogtra, and I was like, this is my idea. Like, I want to do a North Dakota late July, like summer video. So it's going to be some dog training. We'll feature the product in there. We'll talk about the product. We'll show some of the features of the product. Then I'm going to wrap it up with some fishing. So we were filming the fishing out there as well. It makes me feel a little bit better. Like, I'm not just buy this thing. It's awesome, whatever,
right.
And just doing just like a straight up product review video. I would much rather kind of go through the course of my day like I generally do, which is go fishing until the evening when it starts cooling off, then go out, run dogs, show the product, show the dogs are on point with the product on, all that kind of stuff, go over the functions. It just makes me feel a little bit better about myself.
Let's go. I mean, why not make a day of it?
Well, we're making a couple days of it. He got up on Wednesday night. Yesterday, it was literally 100 degrees here, and the wind was blowing 30. It was terrible. So it's like, well, we're not going to get anything done today. So we're filming today, and then tomorrow afternoon we're going to go fishing again, and then go run dogs again tomorrow evening, and then I got to take them to the airport.
Let's go. So 5 years of sponsorship from Dogtra. Have you done videos for them in the past?
Not just like strictly like product review videos. Is what we do though is once a month I jump on the Dogtra Instagram and we do a live thing where we're kind of like answering questions, talking about talking about some of the features on the different on the different products, talking about the way that I use the products as a bird hunter. So I use 2 of their products, and there's like I use the Pathfinder 2 for the GPS, and I also use the T&B Dual. They have different spots that they tend to work best. So out here on the prairie, I like running the GPS. I can see them a long ways away, but if they get behind a hill or a crease or whatever, I can I can see them on the phone, right, or on an Apple Watch or whatever. The T&B Dual, I'd rather hunt with my ears than my eyes. I don't like looking at a transmitter or whatever. You can put them in the run point mode, and you can just kind of listen for them beeps, and when the tone of the beeps change, the dog standing on point, you can kind of work your way there while you're alert, right? You're looking at where the dog's at, just in case the bird jumps wild. And the other place I like using the T&B is up in any place literally with wolves or bears. Like, so if I'm over rough grouse hunting in Minnesota, a lot of wolves up there, a lot of wolves. And by having those beeper collars on, it'll kind of push those wolves out of your way. Like you're not going to have any negative interactions with them. Like I'm personally a little bit afraid of bears. Like I would say I have a healthy fear of bears.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid of wolves. Like there's like 0 recorded wolf attacks in lower 48, but they will mess up a dog quick, fast, and in a hurry, and they're smart. So they'll kind of like decoy that dog farther and farther away from you until the pack gets there, and they'll just tear it to pieces. And I don't want to do that. So I'll run the beeper collars in the woods as well.
Yeah. So have you encountered wolves in Minnesota?
I haven't seen them, but I've seen so I was over there last year, and I was at Pine Ridge Grouse Camp, and I was talking with the guides, and they said they'll see a couple wolves a week. But I've seen tracks. I've seen like what I would call like a run, where they have it's almost like a sand, almost like a sand dune that runs in between 2 swamps. And I was kind of hunting an edge, and I got to this little berm, and I was going to walk out, and it was just packed with tracks and like some scattered deer bones and piles of wolf shit and everything else. And I was like, no, we're going to walk around this spot.
Yeah,
I have no, and then of course my dogs are over there peeing on trees, marking territory. And I was like, no, don't do that.
You don't understand. You might be a rowdy dog, but you've never really met a rowdy dog. It's called a wolf.
Yeah. Well, and anybody who hasn't seen, there's a lot of people, even here in North Dakota, it's like, I seen a wolf. It's like, you seen a coyote. If you've seen, we don't, occasionally a wolf will pass through here or whatever, but it's uncommon. And they're enormous. And so my biggest setter, Rusty, he's 60 pounds. He's a pretty good sized dog, high 50s, 60, somewhere in there. I ran across wolf tracks last year in Minnesota, and his whole paw would fit in just the back pad of a wolf track. And that's a 60-pound dog. Like, I've trapped and hunted coyotes my entire life, and the biggest coyote I've ever shot doesn't weigh as much as Rusty does. The biggest one I've ever got in a trap was like 52 pounds. They just look big because they're fluffy, right?
Yeah.
And people are so bad at estimating size of literally anything when it's running across the field. It's like, it's the biggest coyote I've ever seen. It weighs 40 pounds, you know? It's like, just settle down, guys. So.
Wolves. That's a possibility. How about bears? Encounter bears or no?
I've ran into some black bears. Nothing scary. Where I tend to hunt, there's a couple places in Montana that I go to that are in grizzly bear country. I've ran into grizzly bears when I was black bear hunting. I've, from a good distance away, and sat and looked at them through a pair of binoculars or whatever, which is about as close as a guy really cares to get.
Well, that's all I care to get. Yeah.
Yeah. And I ran into grizzly when I was up in Northwest Montana. I was talking to a guy. I wanted to go pick some huckleberries. If you're out in Montana in August, you go pick huckleberries, right? It's what you do. And so I'm driving up this little windy ass mountain road, and here comes this guy, and I can see his hands on the steering wheel are just purple. And I was like, that's my guy right there. That's the guy I need to talk to. And he's like, go up this way, and then you take a right-hand turn and go up a little ways. He's like, it's a giant patch. He said, but just letting you know, I did just move a sow grizzly and a couple of cubs out of there. He said, she ran off pretty good. She was huffing, but I think she's gone. I was like, okay. So I got up and I got out of the truck, and I hear, and I was like, nope. I just got right back in the truck, put it in reverse. I was like, I'll just go buy some hucks, man. I don't need to be messing around with those things.
Dang. So did he put you on game on where the huckleberries were?
Oh, big huckleberry patch, yeah. But unfortunately, that sow grizzly and her cubs had also found the same huckleberry patch, and they were very interested in those huckleberries. So they can have them. They can have them. I can stop alongside the road and buy some from some guy at a stand.
I'll just hold
I have
off.
no problem doing that. Yeah,
I don't really want them that bad, actually.
Nah, it's all right.
Huckleberries. Montana, the huckleberry everything. Huckleberry pancakes, huckleberry waffles, huckleberry chocolate, and I love all of them. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I ever ate a huckleberry until I moved to Montana.
Oh yeah,
I love them.
Huckleberry Long Islands, Huckleberry margaritas, Huckleberry milkshakes. I mean, it's a real deal out there.
Yeah. Huckleberry jam cheeseburger. Had one of those. Loved it.
I bet that was good. Yeah.
I haven't encountered a huckleberry dish that I haven't liked, actually.
No. Hence the reason I was not quite willing to do battle with a grizzly for it, but I wanted a couple of gallon Ziplocs of huckleberries.
Yeah, I didn't know August was the time to do it. I'm gonna have to get out there and do it myself.
Late July, August. Yep.
Okay, cool. I'll have to do it. So, the great outdoors, you're filming a Dogtra product video and doing that lifestyle wise. I love that. Let's talk about this podcast, man. How long have you been doing it? You've got Dogtra as a sponsor for 5 years. I'm curious to know how that even came to be. Tell me all about it.
Sure. So I actually just celebrated. Well, I didn't really celebrate, but this week was my 7-year anniversary of doing the podcast. So I was a pretty early adopter, especially in the upland world. There was 2 of us when I started it. You know, I never really thought that it would turn into anything. I just thought that, I would love to have had audio recording of my grandpa and my great uncles from when I was learning how to hunt years ago. And I was like, well, I don't know if this podcast thing is going to work out, but at least I'd have some cool audio, files that I could listen to down the road. And over time, it just kind of started gaining traction and gaining more traction, and it found an audience. And I think I was about 8 or 9 months in. Turned out that a listener just started a dog kennel company, Dakota 283 Kennels. A guy by the name of Greg Cronkite started Dakota 283 Kennels, and he was a podcast listener. And he sent me an email, and we started talking, and then they came on as my first sponsor. And then a few months later, I got a email from Dogtra. They were asking if I would do some product testing for them. They'd just come out with the T&B Dual, and we did that for about a year, and then it turned into an actual full-blown sponsorship, and then picked up Onyx and everything else. And the whole time the podcast is gaining traction and finding more and more listeners. And it's like, and I think it was about year 2, and I made a conscious decision that I was not ever going to make a decision on the podcast based on money. And I think that is kind of the secret sauce. Like, if the second that you start viewing it as a primary income source or anything like that, you kind of start, for lack of a better term, kind of whoring yourself out for like whatever. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna, I have no, pitch product, and whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, as long as they're paying me for it, I'll take their money and talk about their shit. And I think that was the best decision I ever made, was just kind of making the conscious decision to, just keep on being me and only representing companies that I believe in and products that are good. And I've turned down pretty substantial money from other companies that their product just wasn't good. And, I don't really jump around from brand to brand to see who's going to pay me the most. Like, I had Dogtra for 5 years. I had Dakota 283 until this year. Greg Cronkite actually sold the company to some other people that don't really care about the brand at all.
I see.
And so I'm, when
Dakota Kennels
left,
are great though.
They're great. Yeah.
They have been.
Yep. I still got 4 of them. They work great from the first one that they sent me. And then I've had Boss shot shells now for, I think, 4 or 5 years as well. I'll never leave Onyx. They got me hooked for life. I've been an Onyx member since way before I had the podcast. I think I started using Onyx in like 2015 or 16, like not very long after it came out.
Yeah.
And, just kind of continuing to chug down the road. But, there's a couple of reasons to do a podcast. I think there's the right reason and the wrong reason. And this is just from my standpoint. You can do it to just have fun with it, have good conversations. I kind of use it as like an audio diary. Like, I'll have podcasts at my place all the way through the fall, and people along the road and friends and whatever. And then sure, I'll throw in a product podcast here or there with a representative of one of the companies that I'm that sponsor me or whatever. But just kind of keep on having fun conversations and be authentic. Or you can start a podcast to try to get some free stuff and maybe make some money.
Sure.
And those ones just don't really take off all that.
Never hit.
Like,
well, so for a young man today, though, knowing what you know now,
yeah,
you already know what brands you use. You were an established hunter from day one. Like, would you down those brands, or would you signal to those brands like, "Hey"?
Sure. Yeah. I don't think there's any problem with going out and actually soliciting, being like, "Hey, I use the crap out of your product and I love it. This is the platform I have. This is the number of people that I have listening, that kind of stuff. And just, hey, are you interested in maybe seeing if we can do something together?" That's fine. There's a big difference between that and having sponsors. And, like, I could certainly, at the end of the year, like we do year-to-year contracts with all my sponsors, at the end of the year, I could certainly go to, say Hunt Stand, which is another one of the GPS companies out there, and say, "Hey, right. Onyx is paying me this. This is what I've given them.
Hunt Stand, I can bring wise. You just Onyx, I'm not sure. You for that so much. Yeah, Onyx is right. Like, that's my guy right there. Let's go.
Right. But I could go to them and say, "Hey, if you pay me like $5,000 more a year, I'll represent your company and I'll be able to bring some people over to it." And I just won't do that.
Right.
It's, people can see through that pretty easily.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. As a listener and a consumer myself, when it's real and when it's not. Yeah. And you have to be able to maintain that authenticity. And and
the other thing that I like, the other part of my, I guess, secret sauce or whatever you want to call it, is that I spend an inordinate amount of time in the field. Like an average year, I'm going to hunt between 140 and 150 days in 7 to 10 states. I'm going to be chasing birds all over the place. So if a product doesn't work, or if it has a hole, I'm going to find it, just through sheer luck of numbers. Right. And then the other thing that's super important to me, like all these products that I represent, like it's like specifically callers or Onyx or whatever, or even Boss for that matter, they're going to have, like, things will fail over time, right? I mean, like a dog tricolor can certainly lose connection. So can a Garmin. So can a whatever. Yeah. A Bosch shotgun shell can misfire, or they could have bad crimps on them, or Onyx app can crash, or whatever.
Sure.
It's the way that those products respond to the customer that means an absolute ton to me. If you have a problem with a product, and none of this stuff's cheap. If you have a problem with something and it doesn't work, the customer service needs to be really good if I'm going to put my name on something. If it's not, I just won't represent it. Even if I do like the product, if something doesn't work the way that it's supposed to work, then they need to deal with it. And all the companies that I work with are all really, really good about that.
Yeah, agreed. Upland stuff is notorious for being expensive, and I won't say names, but there are brands that they say they're unfailing products, or they're guaranteed for 100 years. Like, sure. And that's what I want when I spend $300 on a button-up flannel or something, or what it is. It's like, it does need to last me for 50 years. And I think there's expectation for your upland hunters around that. It's like they're buying this expensive gear. They know what comparable products are in the market that do last forever. Would you say for brands coming up in the space, that's the expectation among the potential buyers or consumers?
I think that a product let me put it this way. When I was younger, when I was first starting out and I was using garbage, right? It was not good stuff. A lot of it was like secondhand I'd get from a garage sale or whatever. It was all used. It was a lot different. Like when you start buying new stuff and you start spending a little bit of money, like the best example I can give is boots. Like I would buy a pair of $70-$80 boots from Walmart or whatever. And at the end of the day, your feet are sore, you're wet. They might say they're waterproof, but they ain't waterproof at all.
Let me guess. You're in the Krispies.
Yes.
I
And
thank you very much.
and I don't like, I know those guys. They're not a sponsor or anything else. And like I went from like
Was that a signal?
No,
We just signaled to them. Crispy.
Oh yeah,
the signal
right.
spin now.
Right. I went from like a $60-$70 pair of boots to Danners, and that was like a giant upgrade. But I'd still get like a season out of a pair of Danners, and they were like, $180. So I mean, $180 was like, Jesus, like these things could last for a long time. Now, I've been running Crispies for 4 years. My first pair of Crispies still work just fine. They're not quite as waterproof anymore as they once were. There's lots and lots of miles on them. I think about boots kind of like I think about tires on a truck. Yeah. Like there's an expiration date on them. Like my soles are almost smooth now. I've just completely worn off all the tread. And so I bought another pair. This will be my second season on the new pair. They're holding up fantastic. And now I have 2 pairs. That still work. So I always carry, everywhere I go, I carry 2 pairs of boots. And if, I like down in Arizona, I hunted in Arizona last year and it actually snowed a couple days. I didn't bring, this is going to shock you, but I didn't bring a boot dryer to Arizona because when are you going to need a boot dryer?
Right. The desert, it rains one time.
But I have a second pair of boots that are going to, Right. But I'm gonna have a second pair of boots that are gonna be just fine, and I can just rotate them out. And sure, spending $400 on a pair of boots, it's like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here? But you get what you pay for. And again, with Crispy, even though again they're not a sponsor, maybe we are sending something out into the cosmos, whatever.
Where are you at, Crispy?
With their customer service is second to none. If you have a problem with the boots, you can send it back. Or if you do wear the soles out, they'll resole them for you, whatever. Right. And the more you pay for them for a product, it should work. And if it doesn't work, they need to fix it. And that's just the way that it works. And like any kind of apparel out there, doesn't matter if they say it should last for 100 years. It just ain't. Like, I mean, like me getting 2 pairs of season out of a boot is pretty wild. I mean, I walk, on 150 days a year, probably walk between 7 and 10 miles a day on average. You're talking well over 1,000 miles on a pair of boots over the course of a year. Right. Stuff's gonna break. Or if you do go out and spend good money on a pair of really nice pants, you're going to catch them on a barbed wire fence or, whatever. I mean, like stuff just happens, you buy the stuff to use it, but as long as it works the way that it's supposed to work while it's in good shape, that's what really matters to me. There's, with anything electronic with like collars, GPS collars, Onyx, there's going to be glitches. And then it's just kind of how the company responds and helps you get that glitch resolved.
Yeah, agreed. Software, you got bugs. With apparel, with a lot of those kind of platforms, I want some longevity, especially if I'm spending $400. I think most consumers feel that way. They're buying. It's the most expensive thing. It better be the best thing.
Sure. But like an average person could wear a pair of Crispies for 15 years and they never wear out. Like somebody that hunts, 20 days a year, something like that. They're getting, I'm putting on 7 times as many days in a pair of boots over the course of a single season as they are. And you're right. They should last. Like my big thing with boots specifically is as long as they stay waterproof, I'm happy. As soon as that waterproofing wears off and then you start having to deal with wet feet out in the field or whatever, like that's an issue. And, a lot of people, including myself, I don't take care of my boots the way I'm supposed to. I don't wax them. I'm not spraying them. I'm not doing anything else. I'm walking through creeks. I'm doing all the things that are going to shorten the life of a boot, and these things still work. And that's the sign of a good product.
Yeah, agreed. So are you teeing up all products like this all the time because they're potential sponsors, would you say?
No, I like, and it's not a good. It's probably bad for me to just have talked about Krispies for as long as I have for nothing, right? But it's a great product, and whether we work together or not, it's a great product. And I have no problem giving my recommendations on products that I use, whether they pay me or not.
Sure.
And if something does happen down the road, then great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I want people to have good gear that works and work with companies. I have like a max number of sponsors that I will take on over the course of a year. I don't. I think since I've been doing this, let me think. Three companies have kind of come and went. I worked with Pike Gear for a couple years. We It was not a bad breakup or anything like that. They had problems getting product made, and so obviously they're not going to pay me to
Right.
sell
They don't need you
product
out
that
there
they don't have.
stuff they can't fill.
Right. And then CZ USA, the whole company kind of took a different direction where they're focusing more on like the AR style guns and pistols and out of the, not quite so much into the shotgun stuff. Still shoot my CZs, still talk about them all the time. Don't have any
Yeah.
problems, and then Dakota 283. And other than that, I've had the same sponsors forever. I got
So
six
let's talk about
sponsors,
the
I think, and
annual
that's not.
contract piece of it. I'm curious to know, is that your initiation or is that theirs? Are they typically doing it on an annual? Are the brands typically following the same process, or are you outlining what the process should be with an engagement with your podcast?
You broke up there on just the last part. Can you repeat that last part?
Yeah, are they kind of outlining the terms of the annual, or do you say this is how my podcast typically
Sure.
likes to engage brands?
Sure. So is what I do is for the podcast, and I don't have contracts with some companies, and I do have contracts with others. Like the guys that I personally know, if they we have a handshake deal, then that's great. I like those a lot better than having to sign stuff. But in the contracts, the way that we put them together, I promise 40 podcasts a year. I usually put out more than that, but that gives me, if we have audio problems or a guest falls through or whatever, I don't like the feeling of thinking that I have to get something out, even if it's not good. Like if I put something out, I want it to be good. I want it to be enjoyable. I don't want to put something out just because I haven't put one out this week and I have a contractual obligation to put it out.
Right.
The other part of it is with the social media platform. I've started making a little bit of a push into YouTube. So I got the video aspect and then the social media aspect of it. And every sponsorship's a little bit different. Like with, I do like tiers. So I'll do like price tiers. The more that they're going to pay, the more podcasts or the more posts they're going to get, the more video time they're going to get, the product placement, all that kind of stuff. I'm lucky enough to do a couple of TV shows a year. We're going to make sure that the camera's on when I'm putting the collar on the dog or whatever,
Sure.
just little stuff like that. And but again, each sponsor is a little bit different. Like I'm not going to do the same thing I'm not going to carry around bags of dog food in the field just to have it like propped up in the corner just to show the label, right?
I understand.
So I'm going to charge them a little bit less because it's dog food. There's not a lot to talk about. I can pour some food in the dog bowl and watch the dog eat it. That's about the end of it, right?
Yeah.
But the dog food that I use works great, and I can feed less of it than I could with other brands. And my dogs like it, and they maintain weight through hunting season and all the good stuff. So I can charge them a little bit less and still get the word out there about their products. So it's all kind of on a product by product
per basis, really. Yeah, I understand. It's how are they helping you, and how can you really help them, and trying to determine.
Right. Yeah, it's all about those mutually beneficial situations, right? I don't want them to feel like I'm fleecing them. I don't want them at the end of the year to be like, we really didn't get enough value out of this thing. I don't want any hurt feelings at all. So I'm very the mindset of over promise or over delivering and under promising.
Do you have is there sales responsibility for you, or are they looking at you in a spreadsheet going, how many did we really get here? Or
no, but I mean, again, it's going to be on a case by case basis. But like the companies that offer up a discount code to my Patreon page, they can track how many people
sure
that use that code. Or like with Onyx, they give me a general code for all listeners to get 20% off Onyx membership or whatever. They can go back and look at those code redemptions,
sure
and that's great. But like with Onyx specifically, if you look back through all the last year's worth of videos that have been posted on the Onyx Instagram page, I'm going to have 5 out of the top 10. And they're going to look at that a lot more than they're going to look at how many people redeemed a code for an Onyx membership. And like at this point, like Onyx is kind of another kind of outlier because they already have the market cornered. Like to me, it's actually kind of preposterous that they're giving me money to talk about their product when they already have the product. Like there's they're going to be outnumbering all the other apps that are out there 9-1, 10-1 probably. But they're happy to like just have people that can contribute content for them. So with me, when I'm out hunting, I'm always wearing a GoPro, or I have a camera guy with me or whatever. And then we'll do collaborative posts. And in the last year, like 4 or 5 out of the top 10 are going to be from me, and including one of the biggest had, a couple million views. And it's a simple thing that I run into all the time. It was just like there was some snow on the ground, dogs on point, rooster pheasant comes out of a bush, I shoot the rooster pheasant. That's the whole clip. Goes completely wild, like millions of views, thousands and thousands and thousands of shares, and like 40,000 likes or whatever.
Yeah.
So they can look at what they pay me based on that video, just that one video. They got their money's worth. And they got another, a ton of other content from me. They got some really nice video work that we did on my big road trip with the camera guy. They got, us e-scouting on our phones at night, and, none of it was staged. They were like, we were doing that, and the camera guy just knew enough to film it.
Let's go.
So they get a lot of other benefits from it. But now, like with the dog food company, there's no discount code or anything like that. So there's no way that they can really track how I'm impacting their business.
Yeah.
It's just kind of based on faith a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You're listening to the Walden Podcast.
So, Tyler, I mean, I need to know all the things on the podcast game. I'm listening to your podcast. I'm curious to know, who are you listening to, really?
Well, that's a good question. I listen to a lot of different things. Of course, I listen to some Rogan, depending on the guest. I still listen to Meat Eater again, depending on the guest. Listen to the Flush podcast as far as upland goes. Occasionally I'll dump into the Hunting Dog podcast, or the Birdshot podcast, or like just kind of whatever, depending. It's so guest dependent for me. And then I'll listen to Breaking Points, the news podcast. I listen to that almost every day when I'm working, just because I'm a little bit of a news junkie. And then I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I listen to a ton of audiobooks when I'm on big road trips or whatever. But as far as podcast goes, those would probably be the big ones, I guess. Otherwise, I'll listen to Rob Lowe's podcast every once in a while, called Literally with Rob Lowe, the actor. It's just kind of silly and goofy. He's talking to other actors, and that's kind of fun sometimes. But yeah, just kind of whatever really tickles me at the moment, I guess.
Yeah. So I know you say you don't want to pitch product. You don't want to be a snake oil salesman. 8 years ago, I was a cold caller. I was a sleazy salesman, and I sold internet stuff. And I was telling everyone, like, hey, alt media, like that is the future. It's all going online. But 7 years ago to have started a podcast, like that's pretty forward thinking.
Yeah.
What do you see for the future of media, really?
Well, I think that nowadays there's certainly a place for, like, everybody's going to have a little bit of a different style. You're going to have different stories to tell. You're going to have different ways of telling those stories, and there's going to be more and more, and there's going to be more good ones because there's no cost to entry really. If you're an interesting person and you have a good perspective, a decent sense of humor, like that's important. You can't be real dry, I'll tell you that.
Right.
As long as you have that, and like there's podcasts out there right now on like knitting. There's wild things out there. Like you can find an audience for anything that you're good at or that you're passionate about. The trick to it is not just doing something that you think's going to sell, because that is just like, that's a death nail. Like it's hard to be authentic, and and like,
I think the market's begging for a meme. I think the internet loves a meme, but how do you really
sure.
put it off in a podcast?
Right. I mean, and like I think that like what you're doing here with the Zoom, I think there's going to be more and more podcasts that are going to the video format. I'm going to end up getting there myself. Hopefully by the end of the year. I'm kind of working on some stuff with my house. Once there'll be a post about it when
I'm
that
sure
happens.
you're going high level, probably much higher level than me. Yeah,
I'm gonna try to blow it out a little bit. It's not gonna be like Rogan level or anything like that or anything wild, but there's gonna be. I think that's where the memes are going to come from. Is when you have a bunch of wild ass dudes on a video call, somebody's going to say something that's going to go viral. I mean, like it's just going to happen.
right.
But it has to happen organically. Like all the best memes are just like, well, at least in my opinion. I mean, like everybody's thinking it. Like let's talk about the Hawk Tua thing, right? Like it went everywhere. And it was just a wild ass person who'd had the right amount of cocktails that was asked a question and just said something. Like if they would have tried to script that, it wouldn't have been what it was.
Right.
And so like when the podcasts start going into more of the video realm, that's going to just start coming out naturally. And then it's going to be on whoever's podcast it is to kind of like, everybody knows when you have one of those moments on a podcast where there's a huge laugh or a wild story or whatever, then it's going to be on that person to recognize that when that happens and remember it. And like, I always have a little notepad off to the side and I'll just write down, whatever, then you can clip it and you can post that. And that's how like you're going to be able to start building an audience on stuff like that, but it has to happen organically. If it's forced, it doesn't come off as authentic, and people can smell bullshit from a mile away when it comes to this stuff. And when people, like when I went to Pheasant Fest this last year down in Sioux Falls, it reminded me that everybody knows all my stories. Like I've told them so many times on the podcast. And so like people would walk up and they'd say hi and we'd sit there and chat or whatever. And they'd be telling me hunting stories. So, well, when somebody tells you a hunting story, you tell one back. Like that's what we do. Like that's the culture. Right. And I'd be telling that story and they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember hearing that on that podcast. I'm like, shit, I forgot that you guys know.
I already dropped this. No.
Right.
Some of my best material.
Right. Because like people have lived with me in their ears for 7 years now. So they know way more about me than I know about them. And they can tell if I'm doing a podcast with somebody and I'm kind of bored or really, like, and that happens. Yeah. Like that 100% happens. And like, or the other thing it doesn't happen quite as often anymore, but it still happens occasionally where you'll get a guest on the podcast that's wildly funny and smart and knows what they're talking about. And then they get on the air and they just clam up. And they start giving you like 1 or 2 word answers or really short, or they get nervous and they kind of lock up.
Yeah.
And when that happens, like when I first started, I would try to struggle my way through that.
You try to solve it. How do you? Yeah. I mean, I've encountered some of that myself, and I'm sitting here going, "This is an expert in the space." Is it the camera? The camera stressing them out? I mean, how do you recover those kind of interactions? I'm so curious to know.
So is what I do now is I'll stop the podcast, I'll stop the recording and I'll just remind them, hey, this isn't live. We're not on radio. Like if you say something that's factually inaccurate and you want to go back and correct it, you can absolutely correct it in the moment when you say something. Like everybody understands it. Like we're not on the news. Like we're not talking about like nuclear war or something like that. People are going to
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, like it's coming, but like people are going to make mistakes when they're talking or whatever. But just go and clean it up. Or at the worst case scenario, I can go back in and edit if I have to. I don't like to edit podcasts because it fucks with the flow. And like when you have a good flow going and you have a good conversation going, you shouldn't need to edit it. Like if you're doing a ton of editing, then there's
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that after you start videoing it. You're gonna have to be posting the video. And so that's gonna force you to have to cut audio. Like you're gonna have no choice, I think. I can't wait to hear what you say. I'm gonna let's do this in 6 months when you got the video right. I can't wait to hear what you say.
I mean, like I'm so used to clipping video already just from my GoPro that I'm gonna like is my thought process is I'm gonna do like I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. Like, you know what works because there are people who are really, really good at this that are already doing it. Sure. So I'm going to go with like the Rogan.
Yeah. 100%. Joe is the guy.
He's the GOAT. Yeah. I mean, like I'm going to take 20-minute clip and I'm going to clip the video and post, or like if there's a really nice, like I don't like to do like straight up interviews where I have like a person and I have a list of questions that's this long and there's certain whatever that I want, you know, you can kind of work that into the conversation.
I think Joe plays it because he sits there and makes them sit down for 6 hours,
right?
Supplies them with booze and weed if that's what it takes to just have a conversation. Yeah, like that's a raw, natural.
Yeah. And like, and that's what people crave because we're so tired of watching like for cable news shit where you get these 2-minute long sound bites where it's all rehearsed. It's not natural. Everybody knows what's coming. You got one person who says this, another person who completely disagrees and they're right and they're wrong. We're tired of that.
Right.
We want to watch a conversation. We want to hear a conversation. And if it like follow all rabbit holes, like go down everything. If somebody says something, that's why I always have a notepad alongside me. If somebody says something, it sparks something in your brain, right? Like there's like this light bulb that goes off. I'll write that down and I'll underline it and come back to that or work that, or, you know, I try not to interrupt anybody, but I'm going to come back to that because that's going to lead us down this whole other separate side path. And when you get down there, they're going to say something else. And then that's going to trigger something else. Maybe it'll trigger a story or it'll trigger an experience or it'll trigger more questions. And if you just keep on following all these little rabbit holes, eventually you find something that works.
I think that's natural conversation. I think we just
agreed.
Like if we were sitting in the car talking, we weren't thinking about the cameras or we weren't thinking about the production, if you will.
Right.
That's how you talk, you know?
Right. Yeah, like you're sitting there and you're talking about one thing, and then 2 minutes later, a song comes on from the 1990s, and then you start talking about your childhood. Then that gets over, and then somebody brings up, you know, skiing or whatever. You know, like it's just the way that our brains work. And so when people are listening to that, and like whether it's Rogan or whoever, and you can they're in the conversation with you. They're part of it.
Yeah,
you don't see them, but they're there, and when you're doing the stuff in video or in a podcast, the more that you edit it, I think it takes them out of that because then they're starting to think, what, you know, why is that clip there? Why didn't we get to hear the rest of that?
Or I had to worry about a stupid face I made or a stupid thing I said. It's like, I'm going to chop that in post. You know, it's hard not to want to cut it.
It is what it is, man.
I just can't wait to hear I can't wait to watch them. I'll watch all.
Yeah.
Because I can't do it. I'm too sloppy is the reality. I'm too sloppy. I say stupid things and I'm like, oh, that's I'm going to cut that out. I'm cutting that out right now.
Sometimes the stupid things are the best things. You know, like we were just out, we were out in the boat earlier and something, I can't even remember what it was now, but it was stupid, but it was really funny. Actually, it was my camera guy. I was making fun of his shorts. He's wearing like those, like like short shorts, whatever. And I was like, what the fuck are you wearing? And we're sitting there, we start riffing on that. And it was just dumb, but it was funny in the moment. And like, I'd do that same thing on a podcast, man. Like whether they can see it or not, like you just like stand up, give us a twirl, sweetheart. You know, like let's see it.
You can do the live stream straight to YouTube. Like that's you just film it and you're just done. Right. Like you just put it out there and not even worry about it. Is that what you're gonna do?
I probably will, but so like the interesting thing about the YouTube algorithm is that it doesn't really like super long videos. So if you take it and there's like a natural pause
that's gonna
in the conversation.
I will put it on anything right now. I'll bet you all the plasma in my body, I will donate it to the clinic of your choice. That's going to change. YouTube is going to become the long format platform.
And you very well could be right there. Because I mean, even since I started like 5 years ago, everybody was saying that your YouTube clips or your YouTube videos need to be 5 minutes or less. Right. Like that was during like the whole Vine craze and all this other like very short video stuff. Then it went from like 5 minutes to 12. And then you start posting 12-minute videos, you start getting more views. And then they push it out more into the algorithm. Now it's up to like 20, 25 minutes. Like they want to see that because the longer that the videos are, the more ads that they can pack into there.
Sure.
And like, I think you're right that eventually it is going to get into the like, you know, Rogan's going to post literally a 3-hour video and you can watch it when you're watching it.
I want to see Elon Musk talk for 3 hours. I'm happy to do that. I think he's the smartest person in the country, you know?
100%. Yeah. Like, and like that's why I've learned a lot from Rogan's podcast on people that he has on that I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about at all. But it's interesting because they're very smart and they know a lot about what they're talking about.
Right.
And then like, I think like you want to talk about putting something out into the cosmos. Eventually I would love to do Rogan, because he's never had an upland bird hunter on ever.
Really?
Ever. And it's not actually a bird dog, but he has a golden retriever. He loves dogs. He loves the other little part, the weird little coincidence is that we're both obsessed with pool. I'm a very good pool player. I play in a lot of tournaments. He's obsessed with pool. We know some of the same people. I think it would be awesome. I think I'd have a blast on there, and I can talk about anything like. You don't want to dive into my knowledge pool because it's not very deep, but it's really vast. Like it's only about this deep. So if you start digging in there, I'm going to fall apart.
You're a random fact guy. You have all the random facts.
Yeah, I know a lot. I know a lot about a lot. I'm not an expert in very many things. There's a few things that I'm very, very, very knowledgeable on. Bird hunting would be one of them. And then there's a lot of stuff that I know things about, but I wouldn't even come close to considering myself an expert. I can speak on it and I can have a conversation about it and I have opinions about it. That doesn't make me an expert.
I think that makes you a good podcaster though. Like, cause you have to take such a wide breadth of possibilities as people coming on, and you've got to be able to make conversation with them. Like it's good to know a lot of random things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had
otherwise really.
What's that?
How do you connect otherwise without it really?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like if you can't kind of start pulling on the strings of a conversation and seeing where they go, like I enjoy having conversations with people that I don't know much about, where I can just be like, you are the dude. And you talk, and then I will ask you very dumb, basic questions in life or on a podcast. I have no problem looking like an idiot. I'm quite good at that. That might be one of the areas that I'm an expert in. But if you don't have a level of curiosity and you're just happy being in your lane, I'm not going to get along with you all that well. Like I can have a conversation with you about like our mutual interests, but we're not going to become bros. We're not going to hang out on at a bird camp or whatever. I need somebody that can talk about a bunch of different things. Like I need you to have an opinion on the Middle East. I need you to talk about politics. I need you to have a working knowledge of.
Here's the Middle East. I'm a massive conspiracy theorist, so I don't know any of my opinions.
I love conspiracy theories.
I
Like
think everything is an inside job. I'm the most skeptical person you've ever met, I think.
they're very fun to start, and then like you start pulling threads on a really good conspiracy theory, and eventually it's like, okay, yeah, the Earth actually is flat.
I'm telling you.
Right?
Like, it's got to be at this point, because we
Right.
did the guy to just not just say, like, we got guys, like, we found biologics in a spaceship in New Mexico. Like, we got
like there's just way too much fun stuff. But if you know, there's a big difference between being what I would consider like a conspiracy theory enthusiast and somebody who actually is a legit kind of crazy conspiracy theorist, like the ones that are like the flat earthers are the best example. Have you ever been in an airplane? Have you ever been on the ocean? You can't see the other side. Doesn't matter how good your telescope is. Like there is a curvature to the Earth, right? When you're flying in a plane at 30,000 feet, you like, great example. You can stand on a tall building in Minot, North Dakota, with the Hubble telescope. You can't see Minneapolis, and Minneapolis is at a lower elevation. If it was flat, you could see it. That's the way that optics work, right? There's just so many fun ones out there though. Like I loved like JFK conspiracy stuff, like the assassination, like all that kind of stuff. Even the stuff with Trump's assassination attempt. There's going to be some good conspiracy theories out there because some of them might be true. Just kind of like there's just
reality. Like, for every one that gets debunked, one ends up being real, and so it's like at this point, I don't know who to believe. Like, I'm just coming up with my own conspiracy theories at this point.
Yeah. Well, do you want to hear a good one that I came up with several years ago?
I can't wait. Let's hear it.
Okay. This is a good one. I think that well, I don't actually think this, but it's a fun conspiracy theory, and you could absolutely get people to believe this. So here you go. CWD was introduced by the car insurance companies. Very, very simple. That's all that you need to say, right? And some guy in Wisconsin is going to believe you because, like, car insurance companies certainly don't want to keep on fixing all these vehicles that are getting hit by or running into deer,
right,
when there's the highest number of deer and the highest number of automobiles we've ever had. Auto insurance companies are like, hey, let's come up with some sort of super virus that only kills deer. Like, that's all you have to say. New conspiracy theory born.
Why
Probably
not?
has 99.999% has zero factual reality, but you can start a good conspiracy theory by saying stuff like that.
If my car insurance company goes up anymore, I'm going to say it's the exact brand I'm currently paying for in car insurance.
No shit. It's unbelievable. Yeah, mine. I have mail contracts, and so I have mail vehicles that I have to insure. I pay for all that stuff. My insurance went up like 30% this year. And when you're talking about $1,000 a month insurance bill, that ain't nothing.
Are you driving bad? You getting tickets?
Neither. Nothing.
The audacity of these insurance companies.
Yep, exactly.
Probably because I have 4 tickets right now. So
I don't have any, and I don't have any accidents.
I'm the reason the premium's going up. Probably
you're the reason. That's right.
Sorry, sir.
Right.
Tyler.
Yes, sir.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
I did too, man.
For the podcast. Thank you for taking the time with me. It was great to meet you. I'd love to get together again. Let's definitely do that.
Absolutely, man.
Typically, I try to cut an hour out of this. Again, I promise you're going to cut these babies. When you're going to be doing post-production, it's happening. Indubitably. But
I'm going to resist as best I can.
For whatever reason, I can't chop an hour. Let's try to get back on and do some more.
100%. I'm going to be busy until Monday, and then after that, I got nothing until.
Oh, great! Let's keep. We'll keep a thread open, and let's keep a thread open regardless, because I thoroughly enjoy getting together, and I think we should do it again.
Sounds good, man. Thanks, bud. I appreciate it.
All right, you bet. Have fun.